And we're back with activist and author Laura Carno. So, what is Faster? Because Faster to me is that movie with The Rock and the other guy and two assassins going back and forth with each other. And I'm pretty sure that's not what it is.
That's not what it is. And I'm hoping to sort of reframe for people what FASTER means. So, and this is going to be a connection back to Ohio because they started this program. And FASTER stands for Faculty Administrator Safety Training and Emergency Response.
Gotcha.
So what this is world-class training for teachers and other school staff members who are armed first responders in their schools. So part of the Colorado-Ohio discussions over the years, they let me know they were doing this great program. Once we had an organization through which to run it, Colorans for Civil Liberties, they invited me to attend a class last year in Ohio. And I'll tell you what, I have always believed that we should have armed good guys everywhere, including K through 12 campuses. Yeah. But gosh, I left there a completely changed person. We are getting this in Colorado, come hell or high water. It was not just the training was amazing. It was a 3-day training. I had attended the second level. So this is for teachers who had already been trained a year before, had already been carrying on campus for a year. So it wasn't just that the training was amazing, absolute world class, but you get to meet these people who would put their bodies between bullets and your kid, not their own kid, other people's kids. And they just want a chance to survive. And it was I'm not a super emotional person, but it was a really emotional experience for me meeting these people. So I came back, I wrote the biggest blog I've ever written, thousands of words, but I couldn't cut anything out because it was such an important experience. Yeah. And then I set about to, let's do this here. So we actually have our first class coming up in June after school breaks for the year. And the laws in Colorado are such that if you have an agreement with your school district, you can carry today. You have to have that agreement.
Gotcha.
It would be somebody designated as a security officer, so to speak. So it's already law. So we just need to raise the money to offer some scholarships for some schools. Some schools just can't afford the tuition. Yeah. Some schools can, and that's great. But you look at some of these rural school districts that they couldn't afford, like a school resource officer, for example. They have to use their existing staff. So that's what we're doing. We're so excited to be able to do that. Today is the 18th anniversary of Columbine. Yeah. And the state that has Columbine should have world-class training for its school staff members to protect kids.
I remember when Columbine happened, I became almost obsessed with it. I learned and researched so much about it to the T. It was just kind of the first time something like that had really struck a chord with me, maybe because I was also in high school. But what is it? I don't know. Like you talked about your understanding of firearms as a very kind of fundamental, basic level. Like it just seemed it was just common sense to you. I don't understand what the inherent resistance to the idea of armed teachers that a lot of people have, especially when it comes to people on the other side and it's like, it just makes sense to me. What am I missing?
Yeah. Well, you're not being paid to have a different opinion, for one thing. And I know I watched your Twitter conversation with Shannon Watts yesterday. She has now moved to Colorado. She lives in Boulder, Colorado. So we get the benefit of seeing her around. Yeah. But I go to the Capitol to testify on all gun bills, pro or con, whichever way it's going. And her organization, Moms Demand Action, packs the room. They all wear the same color, red or orange or what have you. And they have their talking points. And there's always somebody with a clipboard walking around making sure, okay, you have these and you have these. It's very, very organized. And we're just people who want to make sure we always have the right to choose our own self-defense. But back to your question about why do people have a problem with teachers being armed? So first I want to just clarify something. It's janitors, it's principals, it's bus drivers, it's crossing guards, it's any school staff member. Yeah. And I think when many people who aren't even involved in politics think of a teacher, they think of that, 22, 23-year-old who just graduated from teaching school, who weighs 98 pounds soaking wet. And maybe it's a person who doesn't really understand that much about firearms. And they think, gosh, how could that little thing handle a big old gun?
That's kind of the point of the Second Amendment.
Well, yeah. And when I attended FASTER training in Ohio last year, there were three ladies there who were my cat's going to come right into the Skype. It's never happened to me. All my times of Skyping.
Hey, you're good. If it's going to happen on a show, it definitely should happen here.
Your show. But there were these three ladies there, and I'm about 5'6", and they were all maybe like 5'2". They were tiny little women,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all very, very competent with firearms. And I think people don't think about the broad diversity of people who are gun owners.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. There's also this notion, one of the talking points for Moms Demand is we can't be giving teachers firearms. They are there to teach, not to be defenders. We're not talking about giving anybody a firearm. These are people who have CCWs. They've already made the decision in the rest of their life to carry and to defend themselves, defend their families. They just can't take it to work. So we're not giving anybody who doesn't want a firearm a firearm.
Now,
And so,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so there's this notion of we're forcing people to carry, and that's not the case at all. Ohio has trained almost 900 people in 5 years, all of them volunteers, all of them who raised their hand and said, please give me this world-class training.
It's interesting, the point you made that was stated by one of the Moms Demand Action people who said, they're there as educators to teach. They're not there to be defenders. I wonder if they would say that if during Columbine or Newtown, one of those teachers stepped in front of their kid as a defender to take the bullet for him.
Right.
Would they have the same perspective?
Well, and interesting you ask that, because there's this one gal who always testifies against or in favor of gun control, against gun rights bills, whose sister was killed at Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my heart goes out to these people. I know that their feelings about gun control are so heartfelt. Because they lost somebody. I get that. I don't want to denigrate those folks.
Yeah, of course.
But this lady said, and she does the same script over and over, and she says, my sister would never have wanted to have a firearm in that class. And this is a woman who literally died protecting her children. She put her tiny little body in between that madman and little kids.
Yeah.
And it's okay for the sister to say, my sister never would have wanted. But there's tons of teachers out there who would have wanted. And just because your sister wouldn't have wanted to do that, why keep other people from protecting kids? And one of the trainers when I was in Ohio said, this killer wants to kill you to get to the kids. You can't let that happen. Why die to protect your kids when you can protect them and live? And to me, that's the point.
Yeah.
There's an option here. You can protect your kids and you can live.
Yeah, I don't want to go so far as to call BS, but I'm sorry, if somebody's willing to step in front of a child to save them, they'd be willing to use a gun to protect them as well. And it's just another version of basically what you said. And so it does beg the question. It's like, I don't know if there's a blindness by grief, or some other. I don't know. It just seems inconsistent to me in terms of the ultimate goal, which is to protect kids.
Yeah, and we in 2002 we had a murder in my family, mm-hmm. and so I do relate to families of murder victims.
Yeah.
It's a club none of us ever wanted to join, and so I understand their grief. But I think your term blinded by grief, that's a possibility, unless she's just a pacifist who believes that, no violence belongs anywhere. But even if you take her at face value that, okay, her sister wouldn't have wanted, but 900 people in Ohio wanted to.
Yeah.
And there have been no incidents. And so we're doing that in Colorado. It'll be interesting to see what happens once we start training people what the anti-gun forces, especially with Ms. Watts living here, what they try to do to stir up a fuss. But
it's so frustrating because you can't, like, when you have somebody testifying like that, you know, it's an unfettered appeal to the emotion, right? And we all know that in that world of emotion, logic doesn't necessarily thrive.
Sure.
And the problem I feel with those types of things is when we're trying to address an issue and trying to fix it, we can't, because we are in many ways being blindsided by emotion. At that point, I can't even be an effective advocate for my position, because anything I do in response to that is going to seem as if I'm attacking her or victimizing, or, you know, like laying blame on the victim in some way. And it's a very cheap tactic that I've seen employed over and over and over again. I'm not saying this particular woman is engaging in a cheap tactic, but from a 30,000-foot view where the strings are being pulled, whether she knows it or not, they understand the power of that. And in like you, I can sympathize with the situation that she's in. It's just it's hard because, you know, like you said, there are 900 other people who understand logically that in that particular moment, those kids would have been better off if she had a gun, period.
Right.
But I can't even get to that conversation. I can with you because you're not her. But in that moment, I can't get to that point in the conversation because I'm too busy tiptoeing around. And you know, and rightfully so, you know, her situation. It's a really hard thing to maneuver around.
And I think that's how I came back from Ohio changed, because I had my facts going in and I came back feeling it because I met these people.
Yeah.
And you know, when you talk to a little to me, 5'2" woman who said, and this is where I got the line I wrote about in the blog, she said, I would put my body between bullets and other people's kids, and I just want a chance to survive. And I wanted to cry for her because there are people who don't want her to have a chance to survive, and that breaks my heart. So I think we have a really good story to tell that can speak to people's hearts, because so many people make decisions with their heart, not their head.
Yeah. And
I think we have as good as stories. And just before I forget, if folks are interested in finding out what we're doing,
yes, absolutely.
In Colorado, with Faster, they can go to fastercolorado.com. And if you think of the word faster, it's means something. But if you think about it, that the faster you stop the shooter, the faster you stop the bleeding, the fewer people die. Because it is firearms training. It's also medical training.
Awesome.
They learn tourniquets, chest seals, all that kind of stuff, because medics often can't get cleared to come in to the building very quickly.
I think that is just as important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and I hope that you continue.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Will do. You have a good one.
Yep.
Thanks for watching Seeing Live today. That's it for the week, but please join us again Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on NRA TV. I'm Colion Noir, and I'm out.